This man named Peter is the strongest and the luckiest man in love. There are always many beautiful girls from different races around him, and they are all willing to have babies with him. But Peter feels very troubled because he only wants to marry his first love and have babies with her. Since then, he has begun his life in hiding. Can he keep his innocence before he marries his first love? Let's see. The story begins with Peter winning the most important competition in the world, and he is given the title of the strongest man in the world. After the competition, Peter rushes out of the arena, trying to share his victory with his first love Luvelia and propose to her. At this moment, Mimi, an ogress from the guild, is the first to congratulate him. After that, she proposes a bizarre request that she wants to have children with Peter, which frightens Peter. Ogres worship the strong, and she thinks it is reasonable to desire the genes of the strongest man in the world. Peter hastily refuses her, stating that in the human world, this behavior requires an intimate relationship. Mimi misunderstands him and suggests they can start by sleeping together. Peter doesn't know how to respond to Mimi, asking Mimi's sister, Lisa, to tell her what is the right concept. Lisa seriously criticizes Mimi, loudly announcing that as her older sister, she deserves to sleep with Peter and get Peter's seed first. Peter cannot change their terrible thinking and has to run away quickly. Unfortunately, the girls will not let him go easily. Only upon reaching the church where he agreed to meet Luvelia does he finally feel at ease. They clasp their hands together, expressing gratitude to God for granting their love. Luvelia, believing it is the right time, suggests the idea of having a child as a symbol of their love. In her innocence, she holds the belief that if they sincerely pray to God, the stork will be sent to deliver a child to them. Peter's girlfriend truly lacks understanding when it comes to the relationship between men and women. Peter returns home in annoyance and surprisingly finds Mimi and Lisa have broken into his house and try to seduce him in various ways. He tries to suppress his desire, but the soft things in front of him make his body completely out of control. Accompanied by the ogresses, Peter spends the whole night making irrevocable mistakes and thus leaving tears of regret, while the girls sleep contentedly. Suddenly, Luvelia's voice comes from outside the door. Peter's heart skips a beat as he frantically ushers the two girls into the closet. Though they are furious, he has no other choice but to employ this method to prevent Luvelia from discovering his disloyal behavior. Luvelia is curious about why Peter is sweaty early in the morning. He lies he is doing morning exercises, fooling the innocent girl, Luvelia. She takes Peter to the Brave Swordsman's Guild to visit her father, the president of the Brave Swordsman's Guild. He loves his daughter so much that he never allows any man to get close to her and always stops her from dating Peter. But now that Peter has become the strongest man in the world, he has to agree to their engagement and holds an evening banquet. Now Peter feels very happy, but happiness is a flash. When he is in the restaurant alone, the ogresses appear and congratulate Peter on his engagement. Peter thinks they have given up on him, but unexpectedly, they just ask for his seeds again. They do not intend to marry him, only wanting to have children with strong bloodline. As they force to take off Peter's pants, Luvelia walks in. He hurriedly hides the girls under the table and uses the tablecloth to cover the lower part of his body. Fortunately, Luvelia doesn't notice anything unusual. However, Peter finds himself occupying the seat intended for Luvelia's father. At this time, Luvelia's father enters the room and requests Peter to vacate the seat. In order to save himself from embarrassment, Peter fabricates a story, claiming that he simply wishes to be closer to Luvelia. Luvelia's father becomes furious, but with his daughter siding with Peter, he begrudgingly leaves, still seething with anger. However, Peter still doesn't solve his trouble. The ogresses start their actions. They keep teasing him under the table, causing him to be very nervous. At this point, Luvelia's father gets drunk, so Luvelia has to take care of him. The ogresses seize this opportunity to boldly stimulate Peter's nerves. This night, Peter can't hold his desire again. He repents in the sunlight, sighing for his weak will. He questions to the sun why men always regain their composure after everything is over. He can only find the answer himself. But his challenges do not end with the two ogresses. One night, he has a dream about his beloved girl, Luvelia. As he extends his hand to touch her, he abruptly awakens, only to discover an elf standing before him. The elf introduces herself as vegan, and much like the ogresses, her intention is to obtain Peter's seed. However, Peter firmly refuses, which leads to her fury. She tries to obtain the seed by force, but unfortunately this time Peter is so determined that his body has no reaction at all, and he is pleased with himself. In a rage, Vegan casts an elven spell on him and she is sure that a day later, Peter will voluntarily ask to give his seeds to her. Peter watches her leave, not caring so much because nothing has happened so far. When he is dressed and ready to go out to work, he receives the news that Luvelia was attacked by a monster full of tentacles, which uses the tentacles to control Luvelia and then tears her clothes. He keeps stimulating her nerves and destroying her consciousness, which is so effective that Luvelia has no way to resist and is about to be defeated by her desire. At the critical moment, Peter arrives just in time to eliminate the monster and rescue Luvelia. Seeking respite from the exhaustion of the battle, they decide to visit the hot spring. While Peter finds himself alone in the men's bath, he notices something peculiar happening. A surge of excitement and desire overtakes him. It is at this very moment that Vegan shows up, showing her triumph as her spell takes effect. Only when the one who cast the spell on him lifts the spell will he not get hurt. Vegan then requests Peter to kneel before her and willingly offer his seed. Once again, he is forced to betray his love. He can only console himself that what he did is just for his future with Luvelia. They stay at the hotel until morning, and his body is as content as Vegan's, but he feels depressed. Meanwhile, Luvelia's father is making a plan to break Peter and Luvelia's relationship. He arranges a blind date between Peter and a girl from the Orkland, claiming that it is to maintain friendly relations with the Orkland and will not have substantive results. Luvelia knows her father does not have good intentions, but she does not stop it because she trusts Peter. Now she does not realize how bad the matter will be. Peter is well aware that the true intention behind this blind date is to tempt him into betraying Luvelia. He holds firm in his conviction, believing that he could never be attracted to an unattractive orc. However, the orc girl assigned to accompany him on the date, Piglet, stands out from the rest. Unlike typical orcs, she possesses a striking beauty and alluring charm. When they are spending time alone together, Piglet's cheeks flush and she breathes heavily. It becomes evident that this is her first intimate encounter with a man, and that's why she is both nervous and excited. Piglet feels so inferior because other orcs think she is ugly, and she is always excluded. She thinks she is not good enough for Peter, the strong man. Without saying many words, she just rushes out in tears, but is stopped by several horny men. Peter bravely defeats these men, gently telling Piglet that she is very cute. He goes shopping with Piglet, and they wander around the human world together, making Piglet fall in love with him completely. Luvelia's father takes the opportunity to order Peter and Piglet to spend the night in the same room, claiming that it is to show sincerity. Peter does not want to betray Luvelia and refuses to let Piglet approach him. Piglet thinks she is so ugly that Peter is unwilling to come near her. After being gently comforted by Peter, she gives him a passionate kiss. Peter constantly takes deep breaths and tries to drive away his evil thoughts. He finally loses to the temptation at the moment Piglet takes off her clothes. Upon awakening, Peter berates himself once again for his wavering resolve. He recognizes that if Piglet were to disclose everything, his relationship with Luvelia would undoubtedly come to an end. He explains to Piglet that this blind date is merely a strategic union for political purposes. He urges her to contemplate the kind of life she truly desires before making any decisions. Until then, they must keep their relationship hidden from others. It is obvious of Peter's lie. However, a miracle happens. Piglet conceals what happened last night, as he said. After thinking, she decides to obtain Peter's seeds for herself, not for the orcs. She wants to use his seeds to have the strongest child, ordering this child to eliminate all the orcs that laughed at her. Peter realizes that he may create a horrible monster. When he returns home, there are 4 girls asking for his seeds: Vegan, Piglet, Lisa, and Mimi. As they compete for Peter, a fierce conflict breaks out. Piglet is the clever one among them. She takes the initiative to show her weakness in front of 3 forceful girls, arousing Peter's sympathy. After that, she shows her excellent body, hinting that Vegan is much worse than her. And then, they summon Agape, a fairy that can measure male arousal and tries various means to compete on their charm. Peter is frustrated with the ongoing rivalry between the girls. His neighbor suggests settling the dispute with alcohol, and Peter reluctantly agrees. However, he is taken aback when the girls become even more uninhibited and flirtatious after getting drunk. Their seductive actions cause Agape to score more than the maximum and Peter's resistance to crumble. The next morning, filled with remorse, he once again confesses his wrongdoing. Though satisfied, girls still think they should avoid more arguments. They make a pact regardless of Peter's opposition, agreeing on a schedule of owning Peter. From then on, Peter has endlessly intimate interactions with these girls. After that, he goes on a date with Luvelia on his promised day off with the girls. They enjoy their long-awaited time as lovers and have a happy day. Soon, it's dinner time. Mimi's appearance ruins it, and she comes to ask Peter for the seeds. Peter accuses her of breaking the pact, but she says that a free day off is the best chance to avoid the others. The simple girl, Luvelia, does not understand at all, thinking they are discussing work. Peter hurriedly takes Mimi to the restroom and satisfies her. he thinks it is over. On the contrary, it is just the beginning. After Mimi leaves, Vegan and Lisa show up one after another. They both seek pleasure from Peter, depriving him of precious moments with Luvelia. Eventually, they leave, content with their encounters. The date ultimately ends in disappointment. Peter is upset. When he goes home, he cries while taking a shower. Luckily, Piglet is willing to listen to all his sadness, bringing him long-lost security. Not until he gives his seeds in Piglet's tenderness does he realize he is tricked. Other girls suddenly show up, blaming Piglet for not keeping the pact, and they take turns taking away Peter's seeds again. He is so sad because no one follows the rules, which are not agreed by him. He leaves home, sadly crying in the rain. A passing ogre warrior notices Peter being so sad, warmly handing Peter a towel. Peter complains to the ogre in tears that he has a beloved girl, but he can't stay with her. The ogre sympathizes with Peter's emotions. He too has liked the ogre princess for years, but to no avail. However, he firmly believes that with perseverance, they can eventually start a relationship with their beloved. Peter is deeply touched, until he hears the name of the girl that the ogre warrior adores, Lisa. He anxiously rushes home, questioning Lisa's real identity. Lisa doesn't deny it, stating that she won't hold Peter responsible because what she wants is just his seed. After explaining it, Lisa has intimate interactions with Peter again. Meanwhile, the ogre warrior comes to the Brave Swordsman's Guild to inquire as to Lisa's whereabouts. The receptionist, who likes muscular men, can't resist the ogre warrior's charm, so she tells him Lisa's address. It's a complete disaster. Seeing Lisa with the man he helped earlier, he gets furious. In a fit of rage, he wrecks the entire room and starts attacking Peter. However, Peter is left with no choice but to use a roadside banana as his weapon. Despite he is the strongest man in the world, this battle proves to be quite challenging for him. Luckily, Lisa stops the ogre in time. The ogre then calms down to have a talk with Lisa, asking Lisa to go back to lead the ogres, because they don't have a leader now. But Lisa refuses. She thinks there is no one stronger than her in her homeland, and their seeds have no value at all. Before she can have a child with the strongest man in the world, she won't go back to her homeland. In order to prove his strength, the ogre asks Peter to duel with him. Peter knows he can get rid of Lisa if he loses to the ogre deliberately. However, Lisa sees through what he thinks, saying that if he doesn't fight with all his strength, she will tell Luvelia, who is watching the duel, that he has an affair with other women. Finally, Peter is forced to defeat the ogre warrior, who also has great power. When the ogre warrior feels down, the receptionist bravely expresses her love for him, becoming a beacon of light in his dark world. The ogre warrior starts considering giving up on Lisa and pursuing a relationship with the receptionist instead. As they spend time together, the ogre warrior gradually realizes that the receptionist is the one who truly deserves his love, and he stops chasing after Lisa. This leaves Peter feeling deeply disappointed, but Lisa is content, claiming that Luvelia's father disapproves of Peter and they can never be together. She believes that Peter's only path to happiness is through marrying her. However, just when Peter is wavering, Luvelia suddenly appears. Her adorable face clears away all his doubts, and he is resolute in his belief that Luvelia is the only girl he desires. Later, Luvelia tells the bad news that the goblins invade humans' kingdom, and the Brave Swordsman's Guild has to go to support humans. Peter and Luvelia hold each other's hands, believing that they can overcome any difficulty if they are together. However, Peter doesn't notice the 4 girls are following him behind. It seems they will never give up on getting Peter's seeds. Before long, they reach the village and discover it is a group of female goblins that attacks the village this time. They set on attacking human males in order to acquire human genes for reproduction. The men, overwhelmed by the powerful goblins, find themselves powerless to fight back and can only rely on prayer. Utilizing his incredible strength, Peter single-handedly takes down numerous goblins. The girls who have been following Peter also actively join the fight. The ogre sisters Lisa and Mimi can unleash whirlwinds to sweep away enemies. Vegan, an elf girl who can cast magic, and Piglet, an orc girl with great strength, both fight enemies with their respective abilities. Soon they catch the goblins who have invaded the village, temporarily solving the crisis in the village. After the battle, the girls ask Peter to sleep with them as a reward for their bravery in battle. While Peter is being pestered by them, he receives news from his subordinates that his girlfriend Luvelia has been captured by some goblins. Knowing this, Peter hurriedly breaks free from the girls and rushes to the goblins' camp in an attempt to rescue Luvelia. Peter is so powerful that the goblins fear him. They use Luvelia's life as leverage to demand his surrender. Anxious for Peter's safety, Luvelia urges him to escape, but Peter decides to disarm himself to prevent any harm befalling her, ultimately becoming a captive of the goblins. Unbeknownst to him, when Luvelia calls out his name, a blue-haired goblin is shocked. After that, Peter and Luvelia are locked up together, and he gently comforts Luvelia, promising to protect her. Immediately afterwards, he is taken away by the goblins. They are going to give Peter's genes to the Goblin Queen. During the process, Peter notices that the higher ranks the goblins have, the more human-like they look. He can only comfort himself that the goblin who can be a queen should not have low ranks, and she may be a beauty. Unfortunately, the Goblin Queen is uglier than all the goblins he has ever seen. Eventually, Peter gives his genes in despair. Moments later, Peter is taken to a solitary cell. He doesn't have the key to his cell and there is no way to escape from here. Just as he is in trouble, the blue-haired goblin appears and takes him out of the cell. Quizzically, Peter asks the blue-haired goblin why she saved him. In the conversation between the two of them, a past story gets revealed. Gabuko, the girl with blue hair, was taken in by Peter and his sister Lucy when she was just a child. They formed a loving and harmonious family, living happily together. However, their peaceful life was disrupted when a human army specializing in hunting goblins captured Gabuko. Thankfully, she was saved by the Goblin Queen just in time. After Gabuko tells the past, they hug with excitement, and they are both eager to live together as a family again. Peter says that he must leave with Luvelia and asks Gabuko to help him. Gabuko agrees without hesitation. On the way to find Luvelia, she suddenly blushes and breathes faster. She tells Peter that there comes a time every year when the goblins are crazy about having children, and that she can only calm down if she gets Peter's genes. Hearing this, Peter doesn't know how to deal with it. Meanwhile, the warriors in the human village have been waiting for Peter for a long time but still can't see his arrival, guessing that Peter has been captured by the goblins. To save him, they sneak into the Goblin Tribe. On the way, they accidentally trigger the mechanism and fall into a cave, coincidentally hitting Peter. After telling Peter what happened, they come across the renowned goblin hunter Kenji, who is also exploring the goblin camp alongside two tame goblins. The warriors, intrigued by the presence of non-aggressive goblins, seek Kenji's advice on how to pacify the aggressive goblins. Kenji suggests that if human males willingly engage in intimate interactions with the goblins, their aggressive behavior may subside. However, before he can finish his words, he is struck by a stone and becomes unconscious. It becomes evident that the other goblins have already noticed the warriors' presence and have surrounded them. The warriors struggle to block the goblins' attack, telling Peter to quickly find Luvelia. Led by Gabuko, Peter finds the place where Luvelia is being held. However, as soon as they rescue Luvelia, the Goblin Queen appears. The Goblin Queen scolds Gabuko as a traitor and orders her subordinates to execute Gabuko. Just then, Peter blocks all attacks for Gabuko, but he can't defeat the powerful Goblin Queen as he doesn't have any weapons. He can only escape with Luvelia and Gabuko. Just as he is about to be caught by the Goblin Queen, the human army arrives in time to defeat the goblins with their numerical superiority. As the war is over, the human army issues an order to execute all the captured goblins, aiming to put an end to their ongoing attacks on humans. Upon hearing about the execution, Peter reminisces about the time when humans forcibly took Gabuko away from him. He realizes that killing will not resolve the deep-rooted conflict between humans and goblins, and instead believes that the two races should seek peaceful coexistence and find ways to reconcile their differences. Suddenly, he thinks of the method that Kenji mentioned and rushes to stop the human army from executing the goblins. He confidently tells everyone on the spot that he has a way to stop goblins from attacking humans. After that, he takes a goblin with him to sleep in the cave. By the time they come out, the goblin has become extremely docile. All humans are stunned, and they follow Peter's example. Finally, all goblins are no longer aggressive. Peter finally resolves the dispute between humans and goblins in a peaceful way and is adored by all. In the evening, a grand dinner is held for him. Peter fills himself with drinks to release the exhaustion from the battle and soon gets drunk. When Peter wakes up, he finds Gabuko sleeping next to him. Immediately afterward, he also sees other girls in his room. He realizes that he slept with them while drunk and cries remorsefully. Out of the blue, Peter's attention is caught by a letter lying in the room, which was sent a few days ago by his sister Lucy. The letter informs him of Lucy's upcoming visit. Just as he finishes reading the letter, he hears Lucy's voice calling out to him from outside the door. Aware that Lucy has always despised dishonesty in relationships, Peter realizes he must keep the presence of these girls a secret from her. Urgently, he asks the girls to hide before opening the door to greet Lucy. During his conversation with Lucy, Peter learns that Lucy heard that Peter and Luvelia have made a marriage contract and comes to congratulate him. In addition, she excitedly tells Peter the news that not long ago, she found her father, who had cheated and abandoned the family. In revenge, she killed her father in person. Lucy thinks Peter must be as happy as she is, but Peter only shows a fake smile. He begins to worry that if Lucy finds the girls in his room, his fate will be the same as his father's. What Peter worries happens quickly. Lucy notices many girly things in Peter's room, including hair that doesn't look like the hair belongs to Luvelia. She believes that Peter is cheating and slashes him wildly with her sword. Lucy is so powerful that Peter can only run around. Just as he is in a desperate situation, he notices the cupboard where Gabuko is hiding. A sudden idea strikes Peter. He quickly opens the cupboard and presents Gabuko to Lucy, pretending that Gabuko is a surprise he planned for her. Peter claims that the things Lucy just discovered actually belong to Gabuko. After Lucy verifies Gabuko's identity, she becomes overwhelmed with emotion and tears start flowing. At least for now, she trusts Peter's explanation. At this time, the other girls are hiding outside the window. They notice that Lucy has been reluctant to leave Peter's room, worried that they will not have time to spend with Peter. So they arrange for Piglet to climb downstairs and detour to the main entrance of the room, and then ask Piglet to find a way to lure Lucy away. Piglet disguises herself as a member of the Brave Swordsman's Guild, falsely claiming that she heard about Lucy's great strength, so she comes to invite Lucy to join the guild. Piglet's sudden appearance arouses Lucy's suspicions, and she pretends to agree to Piglet's invitation and secretly hides a bugging device in Peter's room before going out. After Lucy has been away for a while, the girls who were hiding on the balcony finally come out and eagerly throw themselves into Peter's arms. Despite Peter's resistance, they persist in their actions, firmly saying that they won't let him escape. Just as this is happening, Lucy bursts into the room, and upon seeing the girls, she immediately assumes that Peter is cheating on Luvelia. When Peter attempts to explain himself with an excuse, Lucy swiftly plays a recording that leaves Peter utterly speechless. Consumed by rage, Lucy relentlessly pursues Peter, showing no mercy. Fortunately, Gabuko intervenes just in time, falsely claiming that the girls are merely training under Peter's guidance. Lucy is stunned, and she realizes that the sound of the recording can indeed be considered as combat training. Under Gabuko's constant explanations, Lucy eventually believes that Peter is not cheating. In the following days, Lucy always goes to the guild to practice her combat skills. Seizing the moment, the other girls move closer to Peter. However, they soon notice an unfortunate situation. No matter how they tempt him, Peter's body shows no response whatsoever. They speculate that Lucy's arrival has caused immense pressure on Peter, resulting in these unusual changes in his body. In order to relieve Peter's stress, they take him to the water paradise. When the girls put on their swimsuits, they look quite charming. Unexpectedly, Peter is not attracted to them at all. He sneaks into a small room alone for a little peace and quiet. The girls have long anticipated his actions and are waiting here to give him a massage. However, Peter's body still can't get recovered. This incident makes Peter despair, and he goes to take a bath in frustration. Vegan catches up with him and tries to comfort him. Suddenly, they smell a strange aroma. Vegan can tell that the aroma is caused by elven magic. Before she could react, she faints with Peter. When Peter wakes up, he finds himself in the elven village. As he looks around suspiciously, an elven girl named Fruitalia appears in front of him. Fruitalia explains to Peter that she has brought him here with a purpose. Her mission is to conceive a powerful child with him in order to restore the fallen elves. Just as she is about to forcibly push Peter down, Peter fiercely resists her, declaring that regardless of her actions, his body will not have any reaction. After confirming that Peter is not lying, Fruitalia casts a spell on him. A purple pattern instantly appears on Peter's body, and his body becomes extremely sensitive. Now, Peter's body can finally have reactions, and he realizes that Fruitalia is about to achieve her goal. Meanwhile, in the water paradise, Vegan is woken up by the other girls and notices that Peter is missing. Vegan guesses that Peter was taken away by the elf based on the magic just now, and rushes to the elven village. Worried about Vegan's safety, the other girls decide to go to the elven village together to support Vegan, but they fail to catch up with Vegan and soon get lost. Upon Vegan's arrival at the elven village, she witnesses Fruitalia teasing Peter. Taking quick action, Vegan casts magic to afflict Fruitalia with extreme sensitivity, putting a halt to her temptation. This magic can only be removed by the one who cast the spell. Peter seizes the opportunity to escape the elven village with Vegan and seeks refuge in a nearby forest to catch their breath and recover. After having a rest, Peter asks Vegan a question. He thinks that Fruitalia has a similar personality and appearance, wondering about their relationship. Vegan sighs and tells a story of the past. Vegan and Fruitalia are actually sisters, and they often have conflicts. Once Vegan ate Fruitalia's favorite pudding, causing them to get into a fight that nearly ruined the elven village. They parted company because of this, and paid a large amount of compensation for the loss of the elven village, as well as owed a huge debt. In order to pay off her debt, Fruitalia made a pact with her creditor that she would conceive the child of Peter, the strongest man in the world, for the elven village. Unwilling to leave Fruitalia alone to take responsibility, Vegan decided to conceive Peter's child before Fruitalia. Upon hearing Vegan's words, Peter advises her to take the initiative and sincerely apologize to Fruitalia in order to reconcile. With Peter's persuasion, Vegan follows him back to the Elven village. However, Vegan, known for her arrogance, struggles to maintain a genuine apology and unintentionally wears an unpleasant expression on her face. This misunderstanding causes Fruitalia to interpret Vegan's actions as a provocation, leading to a heated confrontation between the two. But because they have a similar level of magic, neither of them can gain an advantage in the duel. At this time, Vegan remembers that Fruitalia's body is still in a sensitive state. She makes Fruitalia incapable of resisting by teasing her. Immediately afterward, she intends to unleash a powerful spell on Fruitalia to end the battle. Peter, who is watching aside, rushes out to block Vegan's magic and helps resolve the conflict between the two. He confesses to Fruitalia that Vegan has always wanted to conceive his child first in order to shoulder the pressure of paying off Fruitalia's debts. When Fruitalia learns the truth, she is moved by Vegan's actions. Eventually, they reconcile with Peter's mediation. Peter, feeling a sense of accomplishment, becomes quite proud of himself for resolving the conflict between Vegan and Fruitalia. However, in his pride, he forgets that Vegan and Fruitalia have not paid off their debts, and they urgently need to have Peter's children. As the conflicts are resolved, Vegan and Fruitalia forcefully demand Peter's intimacy, insisting that he fulfill their shared expectations. At this time, the lost girls just arrive at the Elven village. Seeing Peter sleeping with two elf girls, the girls are angry and ask to join them. Peter has lost all his strength and is at the mercy of the girls. Little does he know that in the Brave Swordsman's Guild, Luvelia's father is hatching a conspiracy against him to force him to break up with Luvelia. When Peter has just returned to the guild, he immediately receives a task arranged by Luvelia's father. Recently, the covenant between the guild and the dwarven village is about to terminate, and Peter needs to go to the dwarf village to sign a new covenant carrying the sword that the guild has passed down from generation to generation. Luvelia's father promises that as long as Peter returns with the undamaged sword after signing the covenant, he will no longer stop Peter and Luvelia from being together. Peter is thrilled and decisively takes on the task. Upon arriving home with the sword, Peter eagerly anticipates testing it, only to be taken aback when it unexpectedly snaps in two. Realizing the immense significance of the sword to the guild, Peter knows that once the members know that he has broken the sword, they will surely unite to obstruct his and Luvelia's relationship. For this reason, Peter guesses that Luvelia's father sabotaged the sword in advance in order to frame him. The sword is forged with special materials, and only a few dwarves have the ability to repair it. Peter arrives at the dwarven village as quickly as possible. By asking around, he knows that there is a dwarf named Mithlam who specializes in forging special materials. When Peter finds Mithlam's house, Mithlam is being kicked out of the house by her father for refusing to work. At this moment, she notices Peter and recognizes him as the most powerful man in the world. She learns that Peter wants to repair the sword and takes him to her laboratory. Mithlam tells Peter that she doesn't like to work, but loves research. Mithlam feels that only if she gains enough power can she refuse to work, so she develops a powerful robot. In order to make this robot stronger, she must acquire strong genes. Mithlam offers to help Peter repair the sword if he provides her with enough genes, and the amount she needs is only 20 gals. However, Peter stands his ground and refuses her demands. Left with no other option, she resorts to controlling a gene-capturing robot to launch an assault on Peter, aiming to corner him into a designated room. She is well aware that once Peter enters the room, he will be compelled to surrender his genes in order to come out. Much to her surprise, the tables turn when the robot malfunctions under Peter's counterattack, and she is inadvertently trapped along with Peter in the very room she intended for him. After they are locked up, Mithlam acts calmly, because she will be forced to work by her father when she returns to the village, and she prefers to stay here. But Peter is in a different situation. The appointed time to make a covenant with the dwarves is coming and he has to leave as soon as possible. He tries to open the door by force, but to no avail. Mithlam tells Peter that they can only leave this particular room if he hands over his genes. Eventually they sleep together in the room. In the meantime, accompanied by the guild members, Luvelia's father sets off for the dwarven village, eager to witness the covenant between Peter and the dwarves. To everyone's astonishment, Peter is nowhere to be found in the village, and Luvelia's father is wearing a smug expression on his face. It becomes apparent that he deliberately sabotaged the sword beforehand, with the sole intention of framing Peter. Luvelia inquires about Peter's whereabouts and stumbles upon news about the covenant. In fact, the covenant stipulates that members of the guild charge a high fee for protecting the dwarves from monsters. However, there have been no monsters near the dwarf village for 100 years, which means that the dwarves do not need shelter at all. thinking that the covenant is not of any benefit to the dwarves. Luvelia proposes to her father that the covenant be cancelled, only to be rejected because her father wants to continue plundering the dwarves' wealth. Unable to disobey her father, Luvelia is determined to become stronger and give herself the confidence to confront her father. The ceremony of signing the covenant is about to begin, but Peter still doesn't show up. Everyone begins to shout Peter's name, and only Luvelia's father smiles brightly. Suddenly, the ground starts to shake violently, and a huge monster breaks into the dwarf village. Its body is incredibly tough, impervious to any assaults, causing widespread panic among the villagers. However, just when things seem dire, Peter and Mithlam arrive just in the nick of time. Armed with an axe, Peter effortlessly cleaves the monster in two. Everyone cheers for Peter's power, except Luvelia's father, who is bent on making things difficult for Peter. He asks Peter why he doesn't carry the holy sword. Peter doesn't know how to answer this question, since it takes a long time to repair the sword. He asks Mithlam to change the sword to an axe, which is easier to forge so that they can arrive at the scene in time. At this point, Peter thinks of a perfect answer. He discovered that the covenant was unequal, so he just lies that he forged the sword into an axe in order to break the unequal covenant completely. In the future, dwarves can exchange their forging skills for the protection of warriors. The battle just proves that the dwarf's forging technique has enough value. Peter's heartfelt words touch the hearts of nearly everyone present, prompting them to rally for a revision of the covenant. Eventually, under the mounting pressure from the crowd, Luvelia's father relents and agrees to amend the covenant as per Peter's request, bringing about a new agreement. However, when Luvelia expresses her desire to venture out with Peter for some much-needed relaxation once the event concludes, her father vehemently opposes the idea. Unwilling to live a life where she cannot challenge her father's authority, Luvelia boldly suggests to Peter that they escape the guild together, determined to break free from her father's control. Coincidentally, Peter feels very troubled because he is constantly bothered by the girls in the guild. Thus, he readily accepts Luvelia's advice and sets off on a journey with her. This time, they will venture out together, free from the interference of others, and enjoy the freedom of traveling at their own leisure. This is how the story ends. Vegan is just like every one of us. We always feel hard to express our true feelings to our family, and it will be harder when we grow older. Now every time I encounter trouble, I'll talk to my friends rather than my family. I really hope I can return to my childhood when I can share everything with my parents. Do you have the same idea? Comment below to tell me. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.